This adventurous story begins in a place in China, where there once lived a very large magical dragon. This dragon was extremely powerful and possessed many abilities. All the villagers used to worship this dragon. The dragon had a unique power. Using its hair, it could grow special plants. By consuming these plants, even the most severe illnesses could be cured. The villagers came to know about this and began using those plants effectively. As a result, all the villagers started living healthy and prosperous lives, without any diseases. The use of those magical plants grew on a large scale. The magical dragon became very happy seeing the villagers' devotion and worship. The dragon even gave a pair of golden bangles to the king and princess, with which they could control the dragon, and it would only obey their commands. But as the saying goes, precious things attract unwanted attention. A dark witch rose against the king. She came with a massive army to attack the kingdom because she wanted the golden bangles, which would allow her to control the dragon and take over the entire empire. The Black Witch cunningly ordered her army to launch a surprise attack on the kingdom. The king had no idea, and everything was completely destroyed. The witch's army took full control of the empire, and they also captured the dragon because the golden bangles were now in the witch's possession. She cast a spell that put the magical dragon into a deep sleep from which it couldn't easily awaken. As punishment, she imprisoned the king and princess in a special jail, one that was nearly impossible to escape from. Since then, the witch and her followers have ruled over the vast kingdom. Now, we are shown that distant prison where the king was held. Inside the jail, there is a mysterious masked man who calls himself Peter the Great. In history, Peter the Great was the ruler of Russia, but no one believed this masked man. Everyone thought he was lying. Just then, a pigeon arrives with a small letter tied to its leg. Upon reading it, they discover that the letter is from a man named Jonathan, who was sending it to his wife. The letter contains the whole truth, which the masked man reads out loud to the king. As it turns out, a man named Jonathan had once met Peter the Great, and Peter had given him the task of drawing a map. Jonathan had been given the task of mapping the entire empire. But slowly, he realized that the man claiming to be Peter the Great was actually an imposter. This imposter had taken the real Peter's place and was ruling in his name. The real Peter the Great had been imprisoned by these very people. When the imposter found out that Jonathan had learned the truth, he had Jonathan imprisoned as well. He didn't want anyone to find out, so he could continue ruling Russia by deception. Since then, the real Peter, the true ruler of Russia, had been trapped in that prison for many years. While inside the prison, Peter learned that the king there, the one captured by the witch, was also a ruler of a vast kingdom. The letter that had arrived was actually being sent to the king's daughter, Teddy, who lived in another distant place. The king quickly wrote another letter for his daughter and sent it via the same pigeon. The letter eventually reached the royal family, who had believed their king was dead. Upon reading about Jonathan's imprisonment and the plea to free him, the royal family agreed to take action. Because of this, the impostor was forced to release Jonathan and a woman named Chang, but only because of pressure from the royal side. Still, the impostor had no intention of letting Jonathan reveal his secret, that he was a fraud and not the real Peter the Great. So, the impostor made a secret plan. As soon as Jonathan was taken outside the village, his men would ambush and kill him. As Jonathan and Chang began their journey away, suddenly a group of soldiers surrounded them. These soldiers were sent by the impostor with the intention of killing Jonathan. But then something surprising happened. It turned out that Chang was a skilled fighter. She sprang into action and fought off the soldiers with impressive strength. Helping her was a small creature named Tiny. Despite its size, Tiny caused chaos among the soldiers, giving them a really hard time. Together, Chang and Tiny defeated all the soldiers, ensuring Jonathan remained unharmed. Jonathan had now made up his mind. He would uncover the truth about Peter the Great and reveal it to everyone. Meanwhile, we're shown Teddy, the king's daughter, who belonged to the royal family and wanted to free her father. So, she made her way to the prison where both the real Peter the Great and her father were being held. However, freeing them wouldn't be easy. Teddy had to be very clever to outsmart the jailer. When she entered the prison and told the jailer that this was the real Peter the Great, he refused to believe her. The jailer thought this might just be a trick to help a prisoner escape. But Teddy was determined to help both the real Peter the Great and her father. So, cleverly and quietly, she unlocked their chains and left, waiting outside for them. As soon as the king and Peter realized what had happened, they began attacking the guards to escape. Their actions caused an uproar, and more soldiers gathered to recapture them and lock them up again. But soon, a full-fledged battle broke out between the soldiers and the two escapees. Seeing so many enemies, the king quickly understood that they wouldn't be able to escape just like that. So, for the time being, he led Peter to a hidden location where he was searching for the ancient bangle, the same powerful golden bangle that the dragon had once given. After searching for a while, the king finally found the bangle and gave it to Peter, urging him to leave immediately. He told Peter that if he didn't escape now, neither of them would make it out. The king told Peter to take the bangle and go to China with Teddy. There, the Black Witch was spreading chaos, and it was up to them to unite and defeat her. The king decided to stay behind and face the guards and jailer himself so that Peter and Teddy could escape. He fought bravely against the soldiers who kept coming his way. Even the jailer joined in the fight. The battle between the king and the jailer was intense, and had a bit of comedy as well, but eventually, the jailer managed to overpower the king, capturing him once again and locking him back in prison. Meanwhile, Peter and Teddy, dodging the soldiers, made their way out of the village. They soon boarded a boat, determined to reach China no matter what. They both changed their appearances to avoid recognition. Peter, wearing his mask, was already unrecognizable, so no one suspected him. Now, we shift to Jonathan and Chang, who were also on their way to China. During their journey, they faced a massive storm, one strong enough to claim lives. But still, they pushed forward with determination. After a long and difficult journey, Jonathan and Chang finally neared China. When Chang arrived in her own territory, she learned that the people of her village were being harassed by the Black Wizard's forces. Without hesitation, she set off to fight them. She told Jonathan to wait at a safe spot until she returned. Jonathan settled down and began resting. Now, the story returns to the town in China. The Black Witch had now completely taken control over the town. She was so cunning that she had taken on the appearance of the princess. All the citizens believed their princess was still alive. Under this disguise, the Black Witch used her soldiers to collect heavy taxes from the people and extorted large amounts of money. Using her dark magic, the Black Witch had also created deadly warriors who were far more dangerous than ordinary soldiers. These warriors helped her crush anyone who dared to rebel. She had instilled so much fear in the hearts of the people that they believed anyone who disobeyed her would be thrown in front of the magical dragon, who would destroy them all. At this moment, in the busy market, many of her soldiers were seen torturing ordinary citizens and forcefully collecting money. But suddenly, a group from the White Wizard's side appeared. These were the brave rebels who opposed the Black Witch and were trying to overthrow her rule. The White Wizard's army attacked swiftly and with great agility. However, just then, a new threat arrived: elite magical soldiers sent by the Black Witch herself. These weren't normal fighters, they possessed terrifying powers. One of them had electromagnetic powers, allowing him to pull enemies toward him and strike with double the force. Another soldier was massive in size and possessed immense strength. He began picking up and throwing enemy soldiers, crushing anyone who dared to face him. A third soldier had sonic powers, able to release high-pitched sounds that ruptured human eardrums, making it impossible for normal people to fight back. Their attacks were so precise and devastating that the White Wizard soldiers were quickly overwhelmed and slaughtered. This was why no one had been able to defeat the Black Witch so far. She had ruled over the kingdom unchallenged for years. The Black Witch also possessed enchanted masks that allowed her to change her appearance at will. She constantly wore the mask of the princess, making people trust her blindly. Citizens would say, "Whatever the princess commands, we will do." Meanwhile, Chang began quietly investigating the town, trying to understand what was truly happening and what condition the kingdom was in. But at the same time, something unexpected happened. The house where Jonathan was staying was raided by the Black Witch's men. Jonathan was fast asleep and didn't even notice until it was too late. Very soon, Jonathan was captured and brought before the Black Witch herself. The Black Witch had disguised herself as the princess, which is why Jonathan couldn't recognize her. Jonathan had a painting of Chang, and while showing it, he said, "You look a lot like my friend who came here with me." That's when it was revealed that Chang, who had been with Jonathan, was in fact the real princess of the entire kingdom. But she had never accepted her royal heritage. Now, the Black Witch, disguised as the princess, realized that Chang was in the kingdom. And she would never let a rebellion take place that could take her power away. So, the Black Witch began to move forward with her new plan. She thought she could use Jonathan to capture Chang. To gain Jonathan's trust, the Black Witch took him to a secret place where, on her command, a magical dragon would kill anyone. In the entire kingdom, if any citizen tried to rebel against her, she would bring them here to be executed. The dragon truly obeyed her and had already burned many people to ashes at her command. Jonathan was shocked to see all these magical powers. He became convinced that this was indeed the real princess, and that she wasn't ruling with oppression but just keeping control, something he didn't find entirely wrong. Meanwhile, on the other side, Chang was watching everything. She saw how the Black Witch was controlling the dragon without the golden bangle, the only known object that could command the dragon. But when she saw Jonathan standing beside the Black Witch, she was completely shocked. She started to think that Jonathan must have been misled. So, she quickly wrote a letter and gave it to her small creature companion, Tiny, asking him to deliver it to Jonathan as soon as possible. In the letter, Chang clearly wrote that the one you think is the princess is actually the Black Witch. She has changed her form so that no one can recognize her. I believe your life may be in danger if you stay with her. Escaping that palace is nearly impossible, but if you can draw me a detailed map of the entire place, I'll come with my army and rescue you. Jonathan understood everything from the letter and decided to follow Chang's plan. The truth was, the entire kingdom and palace were heavily guarded and surrounded by strong security. And since Chang couldn't go there directly, otherwise she would get caught, she had asked Jonathan to create the map because Jonathan was really skilled in map-making. Jonathan, while pretending to be loyal to the princess, who was actually the Black Witch, told her that he wanted to create a full map of the kingdom so it could help the people. But in reality, he was doing it to help Chang. Jonathan got permission from the Black Witch to make the palace map, so he got to work and started mapping everything out. At the same time, we see Peter and Teddy, who had finally arrived after a long journey. As they got off at the harbor, Peter had the golden bangle with him, the very same bangle that once belonged to Chang's father, the king. This was the artifact used to control the magical dragon. As soon as Chang saw the bangle, she instantly attacked Peter, thinking he was a threat, because the bangle was a royal treasure. But Peter managed to explain everything clearly. He was once with her father, the king, who was still alive but imprisoned in a high-security jail. Teddy also found out that Jonathan was somewhere in the area, so they both realized they needed to find him as soon as possible and save his life. Meanwhile, Jonathan had completed the map and, while exploring, accidentally wandered into one of the Black Witch's secret chambers, where she used to plan her strategies. There, Jonathan discovered that many scientists were working, and he uncovered a huge truth: those powerful warriors that the Black Witch had supposedly created with her magic were not magical at all. In reality, they were advanced robotic creatures, engineered by the scientists. They appeared to be powered by dark magic, but they were purely scientific inventions, something common people couldn't understand. Jonathan was observing all this carefully, but he eventually got caught red-handed. When the Black Witch found out, she said, "Now that he knows our secrets, he must be punished." She ordered Jonathan to be taken to the dragon to be executed. But just as Jonathan was being taken away for punishment, the tiny creature, Tiny, arrived, grabbed the map Jonathan had made, and flew off. He quickly delivered the map to Chang, who now had a clear understanding of how to infiltrate the palace and rescue Jonathan. Chang then began making her plans with Peter, Teddy, and the entire White Wizard army. Their goal was clear: to attack the palace, defeat the Black Witch, and reclaim the kingdom from evil. The entire army of Chang and the White Wizards worked through the night, preparing themselves for battle against those deadly warriors. They all started moving ahead according to the plan. Peter, along with a few of his Russian allies, went to distract the Black Witch. He disguised himself as the king of a neighboring kingdom and came to her court seeking permission to merge his empire with hers. But this was just a distraction tactic, so that Chang, along with several of Peter's Russian comrades, could travel underwater and reach a massive cave believed to house the dangerous magical dragon. But a major twist happens here. Everyone finds out that Teddy is actually Jonathan's wife, and the guards begin to suspect that she had come to rescue Jonathan. As a result, Teddy is captured along with Jonathan. Both are sentenced to be taken to the dragon for punishment. Meanwhile, Chang and the Russian team reach the cave. The cave is eerie and strange, with dragon hair spread all around. As they approach the dragon, they discover a shocking truth: the Black Witch is not even using the real dragon. Instead, there's a fake dragon head controlled by scientists behind the scenes. These scientists were using technology and electricity to mimic the powers of a real dragon, delivering electric shocks to control people. The real dragon was still asleep. The Black Witch had been fooling everyone by using science disguised as magic, keeping people in fear through fake illusions. Just as Jonathan and Teddy are brought in to be executed with electric shocks, Chang and the Russian allies arrive, and they destroy the fake dragon. They defeat the scientists, and in doing so, save everyone. Many citizens now realize the truth, that the dragon wasn't real, and begin to doubt the Black Witch. Jonathan and Teddy are finally free and reunite after many years. They are overjoyed to see each other again. But the battle isn't over yet. The Black Witch, upon learning that her secrets are exposed and her plans foiled, immediately orders her soldiers to launch an attack. But before her army can even react, a massive aerial assault begins, the White Wizard's army arrives flying from the sky and launches a surprise attack on the Black Witch's forces. The battlefield erupts into total chaos and war from all directions. Both armies were now engaged in a fierce battle, trying to wipe each other out. At first, the White Wizard's army had a clear upper hand because they had attacked with solid planning and strategy. The Black Witch's forces were growing weaker and started collapsing. But things took a turn for the worse when the Black Witch unleashed those same dangerous warriors. However, Jonathan already knew that these weren't real warriors, they were robotic creations, controlled by scientists using advanced technology. But except for Jonathan, no one else knew this truth, which is why the White Wizard's army was suffering heavy damage. The three fake warriors, controlled by the scientists, launched a powerful attack on the White Wizard's forces. Now it looked like the White Wizards were starting to lose ground. They had no idea how to counter such tech-based enemies. Chang and the rest of the White Wizard army were on the verge of defeat. That's when Jonathan stepped in. Since he knew the truth, he immediately rushed to the control chamber, the place where those robotic warriors were being operated from. One by one, he began to destroy the control systems, which made it harder for the scientists to manage the warriors. As the automated systems began to fail, the robotic warriors became unstable and lost control. The White Wizard army noticed this, took it as a signal, and began their counterattack. Gradually, they started overpowering the fake warriors, who were essentially just a mix of puppets and science. With their energy sources running out, they were no longer functional. This allowed the White Wizard soldiers to defeat all three warriors one after another. Eventually, everyone realized the truth, that these weren't magical fighters, but machines controlled by hidden scientists. Meanwhile, Chang was shown reaching the secret chamber where the real dragon was kept asleep. The dragon was in a deep slumber, and only someone of royal blood could awaken it. Since Chang was the daughter of the king, the true princess of the kingdom, she placed the golden bangle at the designated spot. This caused the entire chamber to begin unlocking, indicating that something powerful and ancient was about to awaken. A warrior's suit also emerged from within, which Chang wore. With the help of the sharp golden bangle, she cut the dragon's magical hair, waking the dragon that had been asleep for years. The dragon was now completely under Chang's control because she possessed the golden bangle. At this point, the Black Witch had learned everything. So she quickly kidnapped Peter and tried to escape with all the gold, as her main goal was to collect as much gold from everyone and become incredibly rich. Using her machines, the Black Witch began flying into the air with all the gold. But Chang wasn't going to let that happen. She climbed onto the large magical dragon and began chasing after the Black Witch. The magical dragon wasn't going to let her go so easily either, especially now that the truth about the Black Witch had been revealed. All the citizens had revolted, and they weren't sparing any soldier who was loyal to her. During the intense fight between Chang and the Black Witch, a lot of the heavily loaded gold started falling from the air. Eventually, it scattered all around and returned to the citizens it had been stolen from. This enraged the Black Witch, and she began attacking Chang fiercely, injuring her badly. An intense battle broke out between the two, where it became hard to tell who was winning or losing. Then, with cunning and speed, the Black Witch snatched the golden bangle from Chang's hand and started falling downward. She believed that since she now had the golden bangle, the magical dragon would obey her and save her from falling. But that didn't happen. The magical dragon remained above with Chang seated on its back. The dragon simply said that he only obeys those of royal blood. He explained he was created to follow only those of the royal lineage, to prevent the misuse of his powers by just anyone who got hold of the bangle. As the Black Witch continued falling from such a great height, she ultimately crashed to her death. Chang and her companions had accomplished a great mission, saving the kingdom from falling into the wrong hands. Chang was now declared the new princess of the kingdom and would rule it in her own way. The magical dragon was now free and would protect the kingdom from dark forces in the future. Everything had returned to normal, and the citizens had their new ruler. Jonathan and the people of the kingdom then requested that their true king be released. Because of so many people speaking up, the jailer and his allies had no choice but to set the king free, and the king was invited back to his throne. But the king made one final commitment, that the kingdom would now be ruled by his daughter. He decided to live the rest of his life like a normal person. After that, the king started educating many children, and that became his life's new purpose. And with that, our adventure-filled story comes to an end.